The most common traps you're gonna find yourself in are like gear acquisition syndrome when you get the hardware. It's endless plug-in purchases, getting a compressor here, an EQ here. It's never truly knowing the tools or learning how they work. Learning the fundamentals is one of the greatest things you can do because even pro engineers and people like myself use the stock plugins all the time. What's the point of buying something if you have something that works, maybe even better than some of these plugins that have amazing graphic user interfaces? And I've been here too, multiple times, thinking that that next plugin is the missing piece, but it isn't, and you're constantly chasing the dragon. What you need is not more tools, but better technique, because the quality doesn't come from the plugin, it comes from how you use the plugin. Here are some fundamentals that are gonna be more important than whatever plugins that you use specifically. One, and probably the biggest one, is gain staging. Gain staging is when you are adjusting the gain in different parts of the signal chain to ensure that you're getting a good signal level. For example, if the clip that you are using in your DAW is pushing too much volume into the track even before you put a plugin on there, it's likely going to clip into track. So you may want to turn down the gain of the actual clip before it gets to the fader or before it gets to the first plugin so that the first plugin isn't clipping. That is one of the biggest problems. Now, if you understand how a plugin sounds when you break it, that's when you start breaking the rules. But that is applying the concept of gain staging. You're understanding that pushing the gain louder at one point allows you to get that sound that you're looking for. Gain staging is one of the best ways of really dialing in your sound. If you're very new to mixing and mastering your own sounds, reference tracks is a good way to go. It tells you what has already worked, and listening to it and comparing it to mixes that you've already done, you can see where things are weaker. Nothing is perfect. So having multiple references to a sound that you're looking for is going to ensure that you're going to have a higher quality mix. Another tip is balancing your tracks before processing them. When you have a good balance between your sounds before you process them, you have a good reference point. So then when you start applying processing, you then have a good reference point of, okay, is this plugin actually making things sound better? Or is it psychoacoustically affecting my perception so that I think it sounds better because it's louder? Using tools like an RTA or looking at your meters and seeing where things are peaking is a good indicator of knowing if a plugin is doing too much or really enhance the sound at all. Proper EQ decisions is another way to really ensure that you're gonna get a high quality sound. Some people like to tell you to use very aggressive EQs to carve out your space or to go fishing and find these really nasty frequencies. In doing it, you can cause more problems. One of the best tips I learned was from one of my professors at Ball State University, Christoph Thompson, shout out him. He had told me that the threshold of difference is about 3 decibels. So when you make a boost or a cut, starting out at around 3 decibels, maybe a relatively wide curve, especially with a parametric EQ, you now know that that's enough to make a difference. And when you hear it, do you think the difference is doing anything good? Because it's easy to use the RTA or the other tools that are visualizing problems to find out where things might be. However, that doesn't mean that it's going to make it sound better when you boost or cut in certain areas. A lot of times it is better to cut instead of boost unless you really know what the sound of that EQ is going to do. If I feel like the sound is just whistling or creating issues, I do use some form of dynamic EQ so that it only is pulling the frequency out when it gets too crazy so that it doesn't lose the integrity of the sound. Now, another big tip is saturation, compression, and using your space intentionally. And depending on what exactly you're referencing or what direction you want to go is going to determine what kind of saturation you want to use. Some sounds, it sounds good for it to be blown out and crazy. So that's why being aggressive with your saturation or your compression can do wonders. However, that's not the case for every mix or every sound that you're looking for. And once you've really got those sounds pocketed in a certain way right and they're blending well, you can then use your space, your left and right, intentionally. When you go too far out left and right all the time on a ton of your sounds, you will create more problems than solve them as well. You can create phase issues between the left and the right channel. So if things are too wide, when you go to play it back on mono, which is typically what is being played back on a phone, it's going to sound like things are missing. Things are hollow. Sometimes making sounds wide is actually going maybe 25% or 50% on your imaging. If not using any imaging at all, just using the pan knob and going a little to the left or a little to the right and putting certain sounds, maybe like a synth pad or a keyboard, in different places like they're on a stage, but then you have the vocal front and center, you've got your kick drum hitting front and center, you've got your snare hitting front and center. You get the point. It's setting the stage, because it's easy to overdo it, especially when you're overthinking it and stressing out your ears and stressing out your mind and your wallet too, thinking that this was the best decision that you could have made with the plugin. Some of the biggest misconceptions are, this new plugin will fix my mix. I need the analog emulation to get the pro sound, and stock plugins just won't do it. Honestly, to debunk all of those, the true answer is not exactly. If you don't know how to do the basics, those are useless to you. So even if you have the analog emulation, you don't even know how to set it up. You're not even using it properly. If you don't know how to do these things properly, what makes you think spending more money is going to get you the better sound? It doesn't. If anything, it's better to invest your time into education. And the ways that you can do that is getting involved in spaces like Discord servers, probably paid ones that offer a space where people who have more experience than you can bounce off of them and go talk to them. Like, those are great. Secondly, there's tons of free tutorials online. I know you can get into the tutorial trap, and it's easy to. However, it's about balancing your time. Once you get an idea to learn a new skill that's in there, spend a little bit of time watching a video, and then shortly afterwards, go apply it. Try it. Do it badly. Don't beat yourself up when you don't get it perfect. See if it works for you. And that's what investing in your education is. That doesn't mean you have to do what I did and go to school for it and realize, hey, if I wanted to make money in the music industry, be a stagehand. There's actual money in that. Another thing you can do is go into ear training courses. Those are great as well. Whether that be with music theory and learning chords, or that be with mix engineering. There are tons of really awesome websites that allow you to test your skills with EQ, with things being boosted or compression, so that you can find out, is this the problem, before you start using your eyes instead of your ears. I hope you're listening. Here's some practical actions that you can take. Pick 5 of your ideal core plugins that you have right now and stick to those for the next 30 days. You could also limit yourself to just stock tools on your next mix. You'd be surprised how far you can go with just the stock plugins. Pick reference tracks and start listening to tracks that you think you want to sound like, so then you can elevate your sound in that direction. And pick one new technique and try to apply that every time that you go to do something new. You won't regret it. If you made it to the end of this video, thank you so much. If you want to go ahead, like and subscribe, and leave a comment on your #1 go-to plugin and why, that would be great. Personally, mine is Shaperbox 3. Shout out Cable Guys. And until next time, let people know that Jesus loves them.